J, K, L, N, X. I know what you're thinking. The guy from Tennessee does not know his alphabet, right? I know it, at least on a good day. Actually, these are the Smith & Wesson frame designations, and I'm Hickok 45. I even remember who I am. I know my alphabet, and I know a little bit about Smith & Wesson revolvers. The frame designations, you know, using letters, can sometimes be confusing to people, and I get questions about it. Coincidentally, I had one this morning. It's funny because we had planned to do this video and even started to run the other day and just didn't finish it right. You know, so anyway, this is something we've been thinking about doing for a good while. And I had a message this morning asking about this very thing. But the frame sizes are designated, you know, by J or K or an L or whatever. And I know it's like other model numbers with Glocks, or Glock 39, Glock 21. And if you don't know Glocks, you know, what's that? I don't know what model that is. Same with frame sizes in a Smith. You know, someone might not even know what an X frame is. Yeah, sounds good to me. Send me one. But anyway, let's just talk about it a little bit, okay? The J is the smallest generally, and I'm going to talk about the frame sizes you're going to see. There were some earlier designations. There was an I frame, as I understand. I don't know much about that. There was an M, as in mommy, you know, frame, and then the Smith & Wesson had some in-house frame designations that the public didn't really use, and all that kind of thing. So if you're a Smith & Wesson researcher, historian, you know, great. But I want to just deal with the frame sizes that I'm aware of that we see in the shops and the guns we buy these days. Okay, the frame that I'm holding here, looking at, isn't J. It's a very small, about the smallest you're going to see today. Okay, that came about in the 50s. And before that, there was one a little bit smaller. I believe it was the I. But this was the one that came along for the 38 Special. Okay, needed a little bit more size to it. And it is extremely common. The 38 Special is a very common round, and it's available in plus P, which means 38 Special with a little bit more power. You know, a lot of people carry plus P if they have a carry permit and carry one of these. This one is designated plus P on the barrel. It will handle 38 Special plus P, and we're just going to take a couple of shots with it. The J frame, Centennial model, Smith & Wesson. Think I ought to shoot that big bucket of water with a 38 Special? Let's save that for something bigger. Okay, big 5-shot frame. It will get the job done. Look at that cowboy right in the chest, man. So yeah, this is awfully small. And you might look at that and think, who could shoot that? But they're very shootable for a small frame revolver. They really are, even in double action only. You know, this one is a Centennial, so, but they came with hammers. You know, we've got one in blue with hammer. John does. J frame, very, very, very popular. Carried by untold tens of thousands of Americans, no doubt about it. All sorts of configurations you see in the shop, with in colors even. You might see one that's pink. Blue, has pink grips on it, but very popular and very, very, very handy. The old J frame, smallest one you'll generally see. And then moving on up, we come to the K frame. All right, this is an all-time favorite for a lot of people. This is kind of the original Smith & Wesson double-action revolver. I believe 1899, 1900 is the date you see most often on this one. So this is the old, I think the M&P, the Model 10, you name it. So many different models, and we're not going to get into all the various models. This happens to be a Model 65, you know, with no adjustable sights or anything, but it's a K frame. The Model 66 is a famous model. The Model 19, you've seen that I have, those are all K frames, same frame size. Now barrel lengths can differ, obviously, and some of the grips are round butt, and some are square butt. You got all kinds of other variations, but the frame size, you know, is designated by the K. So it's kind of a medium, and it's a great size frame. Fits most people's hands pretty well. Was carried by a lot of different police officers all through the 20th century. Very, very popular. Okay, it's not a round or a size frame as was discovered that you could fire hundreds and maybe thousands of full-blown 357 Magnum rounds through without doing some damage maybe to it eventually. But, you know, I've had them for years and have shot them thousands of times, and they hold up really well. But the end frame in the same caliber, like in the Model 27 and 28, police carried that as well, and it would hold up longer and better to a full diet of really hot cartridges. But this thing holds up just fine and does a good job. Let's load it up. Now these are 357 Magnum rounds. Now you can get a K-frame, I believe, in 38 Special or 357 Magnum, and of course a 357 Magnum will shoot a 38 Special. So it's a great size gun, perfect size. Now this one's double action only because somebody has ground off the hammer. See if I can hit something double action. Oh, nice. All right, dramatic. I like that. Uh-oh, that one's relieving himself out the side. So that's a handful in 357 Magnum, but not that bad either. Okay, K-frame, what a beaut. Goes back to the turn of the century, the last century that is, around 1900. Okay, then moving on up into the, this is an L-frame. In the early 80s, Smith came out with the L-frame, which is kind of a beefed up K-frame. Little bit bigger, not much. Also has the underlug, the full-length underlug. You see these lying in a gun case, and you see that underlug, you know what I mean by an underlug, like this one does not have it. You know, it doesn't have that underneath, kind of like the Python has. Goes to the full length. If this had an 8-inch barrel, so would the underleg. It would go all the way out with it. It's almost like a magazine on a shotgun or something. So, this is an L frame, a little bit bigger. This is more, speaking of the Python, it's more like the Python in size and weight and heft. Okay, a little heavier frame, a little beefier forcing cone on the barrel, a little more weight, and it was in part an answer to the issues I talked about with the K-frame. If you're going to shoot a lot of 357 Magnum hot rounds, you probably want an L frame at least, possibly an N frame, but certainly an L frame. Now this one happens to hold 7 rounds. Somebody at the factory messed up, didn't know their numbers, and drilled an extra hole in it. Pretty neat, huh? It's a rare find. Holds 7. A 6-shooter that holds 7. So we have another 357 Magnum. Let's take a couple shots with it. Nice. Sweet. Seven, kind of unusual. Now that is a sweet gun. I really like that. That was a special from Tallow Distributing. They put in an order from Smith for that exact gun, in 3-inch, 7-shot and everything. So you don't see those too often. That's a really nice little piece. You know, I like short barrels. Yeah, you see a trend here with 3-inch barrels, don't you? But the L frame, again, early 80s, and supposedly it holds up better than the K frame, and it's not all that much bigger. So it's still carryable in a holster. I have a holster here that you can carry either it, you know, or the 65 K frame. They'll both fit in it, even though it's for an N frame. But that type of holster is pretty handy for that. Not a pocket gun. You know, the J frame, that's considered a pocket gun. All right, so we got J, K, L. We're getting bigger, and here's where we mess up our alphabet. We get into the N frame. All right, these are the big boys. Now the N frames, you can usually just tell by looking at them. The big cylinder, no matter what the caliber is, you will see N frames like this in 44, 45 ACP even. You'll see them in 357. I don't know, I'm trying to think if they made an actual 38 special in an N frame. Might have. Smith has made everything at some point. But regardless, it's still the same size. Now they make a 357 in this now, this end frame, that holds 8 rounds. So you know, you got a big cylinder, and just like in the L frame, you can get in 7 rounds. In the end frame, you can actually get an extra chamber there and hold 8. So kind of interesting. It's still a big revolver, you know, for a 38 caliber 357. But the end frame, it goes back, I think, to about 1907, long in there. Smith came out with it in competition for the new service revolver that Colt was manufacturing. You've seen my big new service revolver. It's a big hand cannon. And so Smith came out with an end frame, a big revolver as well. Chambered in the 44. I think it was the, was it the triple lock or the, I don't know, it was one of those guns. 44, early 44 double action and hand ejector model, I think it was called. But, and then it's been chambered in the 357 Magnum in 1935. When the 357 Magnum cartridge came out, it was in a gun this size, the Model 27, the end frame, big old end frame. Okay, still just held 6 rounds, but a big old end frame. It's sweet to shoot because it's heavy and it absorbs the recoil of the really powerful 357 Magnum rounds, or a 44 pretty well. If you got a short barrel like this, it doesn't absorb it as well. But that's the end frame. Let's take a shot with it. These are 44s. Actually, I have these on a speed loader. Ooh, spiffy, huh? Spiffy. So this is a really nice gun. You've seen this before, I think. If you've been around. What we want to shoot with this thing? He's a cowboy. Needs to be shot again. I think I'll go gong hunting. Just for kicks. These are some light loads, as you can tell. Okay. Those are, yeah, those are actually some 44 specials I had in that. I thought I had Magnums in it, but those are 44 specials. And that's one of the nice things about that. You can shoot specials or Magnums. Okay, so that's a pretty gun. That's an end frame. End frames are just going to be big. That's the frame, the biggest frame you normally see. That's the frame that Dirty Harry's gun was in. Of course, that is basically the gun in stainless and in a shorter barrel, but that's the 629 44 Magnum. Dirty Harry made that famous, and of course it had been out before Dirty Harry, but he's the one who made it famous. And this is, hey, there's Homeland Security again flying over. Cool. They're flying at treetop level now. They're trying to get a reading on the serial numbers. Let me cover them up. You gotta watch him, I tell you. Nah, Homeland Security does a good job. I don't think that's who it is. But anyway, back to the end frame. This is the Dirty Harry gun, basically, frame and everything. And it is just fun to shoot. It has a little recoil with Magnums in it. But he made it famous, and it's just the popularity of that gun will never die. That's the biggest Smith frame that you generally see. It was the most powerful gun when it came out in the 50s, in 44 Magnum production gun in existence. Okay, 44 Magnum end frame. Until, yes, the X frame. I believe it was 03 at the SHOT Show. This was introduced, and yes, the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. Smith was tired of not having the most powerful handgun in the world, because there had been just a variety of different guns that were more powerful than the 44 Magnum. Not that you necessarily want to shoot them, but they were more powerful and are. So Smith again climbed to the top of the heap with the 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum, 50 caliber, half an inch. Amazing. You've seen the rounds. They are massive. So, well, I guess I better shoot one or two here. Let's put a couple in. All right. Again, this is the X frame. This is as big as it gets with Smith & Wesson. Okay, I guess this one's big enough to shoot the bucket. Hope we don't end up with a shower here. Let's see. I better not have anything behind me here. Okay. Or behind the target. Ah, that did it. That did it, didn't it? Where do we put the other one? Oh, let's throw it at the gong. What the heck? Oh, man. No question when that hits. So that's a big old X frame in the 500, and that's as big as it gets. And that is massive, isn't it? I mean, look at the difference between those two. Just considerable, isn't it? Considerable. So that's kind of a rundown on the frame sizes. I know you hear them and you hear people talk about them a lot. And it's really not all that complicated. You just have 5 main sizes, and that was not hard to mistake, right? So hopefully that give you a little information that might be useful to you if you're thinking about a revolver. And a lot of people are. They're fun to shoot. A lot of people still carry them. So anyway, hope you learned a little bit from that, and we'll talk to you later. Life is good.